What's up, everybody? Boop, boop, boop. Oh. Welcome back, you guys. Welcome back to Real Talk Recovery, where we talk about recovery from addiction, and I share my life with you. My name is Nicole, and I'm a person in recovery. My sobriety date is July 13th of 2015. Hey, Wes, what's up, man? Stay for a while. I'm fixing to have a special guest on. So, tonight, you guys, we got a special guest coming on. Shout out to Wes Do Recover. If you guys don't follow him, you're going to want to start following him because he's going to be creating jobs for those of us that are in recovery. And these are big opportunities for recovery content creators here on TikTok. And so I know you guys have heard me talking about it, kind of teasing around about the idea of you guys working with some brands and stuff like that. This is going to be the guy that you're going to want to talk to. So give him a follow and support him in his recovery, because he's in recovery also. And I'll give you guys the updates and the specifics on that whenever I get more information on it. But I'm really excited about it. Tonight we got Danie Nicole coming on. I was like, who do I have on coming on for tonight? I couldn't, for some reason, I was like, my mind was just going away. And so I was like, let me see. And so I know that Danie is live on her account right now. I'm about to send her an invite so she can join us, and then we'll start the live stream. You guys know what we do here on Real Talk Recovery. We support all pathways to recovery. Not every single night, but almost every night, I go live at 7:30 p.m. Central. Some nights it's just me sharing my experience, strength, and hope. Other nights it is my friends coming over and sharing their stories. And tonight we have Danie coming to share her story. I'm sorry about last night, y'all. TikTok was glitching, and I was literally going through TikTok withdrawals. I seriously think that I have an addiction to TikTok and that I might need to go to therapy for it, because I was losing my mind not being able to sign on and go live with you guys yesterday. I was straight tripping, dude. I was like, where are my people? And I couldn't see your comments. I couldn't see my videos. I was literally so pissed. And it really made me think, damn, I really rely on you guys for support. You guys are my family. You know, we have a family here. This is a fellowship. And when I didn't have you guys to connect with through videos and through live streaming, I was all lonely yesterday. In fact, I went live on my YouTube channel instead, just so I could connect with you guys, because I was like, where are my people? So we have a little family here, and it means a lot to me that you guys tune in and hang out with us every night at 7:30. I hope you guys know that my intentions with these videos, with people sharing their stories, is for you guys to find people that you can relate to. My story isn't going to hit with everybody. You know, maybe you didn't have kids when you were in your addiction. Maybe you're, younger, maybe you're older. And so hopefully by bringing different people on the channel with different recoveries, different ages, different places in the United States, it will help you guys to find people that you can relate to through hearing their experience, strength, and hope. You know what I'm saying? So let me go ahead and get Miss Danie an invite so she can come on. Please forgive me for playing with my hair. Y'all know how that is. It's part of my addiction, is playing with my hair. So we'll get her on, and then we'll get started. Hold on. Let me send her another invite. Oh, did I invite the wrong person? Maybe I invited the wrong person. Who knows? Dude, is that glitchy? Huh. Uh-oh, y'all. It might be because, have you guys seen anybody else dual live? Unable to connect to the host at this time? Hey, Danie, if you can see me right now, send me an invite to join your live and see if it works that way. It's a huge cup. You know how I got this cup, you guys? I got this cup when I overdosed. I was in the UAMS hospital on one of my many times overdosing. Hey, girl. Ah, hold on. Okay, I hear you now.
All right. Let me get this thing set up here.
Okay.
Yeah, we just got back from the store and you messaged me and I was like, crap. I work 16 hours today. I'm like, whew.
Oh, where do you work at?
I work at front desk at a hotel.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Yeah, we work a lot.
I'm
We've got like,
excited
we
to
don't have
hear the
anybody to
story.
like relieve us. So,
Did you hear
like
me? I
work
said
on our days off.
I'm excited to hear your story. I want everybody to know that Danie made the little picture thing where it says where it has my face. She made that for me. Isn't that so fucking cool? How did you do that?
It's an app. It's called, I'd have to look and see, but it's just an app. You can get off Play Stores for free.
I
I
like
think
it.
that's how most people are making them now.
Because are you going to get in your car and sit down, or do you want to just do it like this?
Yeah, I don't know if my car. Yeah, my husband didn't leave me the key, so I probably just. Can you guys hear me? It's like there's too much noise back here.
We hear you great. This is what I need you to do.
Okay.
I want you to introduce yourself to everybody. Tell us what your drug of choice was, how long you've been sober, and then just take us through your story from beginning to end.
Okay. My name is Danielle, and I'm an addict. My drug of choice. Well, it started out being oxy 80s, opiates, and I finished off with methadone. I got on methadone pretty bad. I guess you'd have to say my story started back, when I was really young. That's when, you know, I was molested and things of that nature. I never had any really healthy relationships. And I guess that was because I never realized how what happened to me messed me up. So I was trying to get love any way I could, no matter, how I got it. As long as I got love, I didn't care. My first real relationship when I was 13, I mean, I know at that age, I know now it wasn't a real relationship,
Yeah.
but to me it was at the time. It was really bad. Like, I couldn't go anywhere without his approval. I couldn't wear anything without his approval. No makeup, no friends. He had to be the first person to talk to in the morning, last person to talk to at night. It was really bad. I ended up having to get a restraining order on him to get away from him. And then, I always if I was with friends, I would, smoke pot or do a pill here and there. But my addiction never really got bad until I was 24 years old. And up to then, I had tried to commit suicide when I was 16 over my father because he had, basically gave me and my sister up for a new family. He met a woman on the internet. She had 2 daughters. He moved them in, and it was like me and my sister didn't exist anymore. And I was a daddy's girl, so, that was just like ripping my soul out of my body. Like, it killed me. And so we still don't talk to this day. And
What
so that's something I
happened? Like,
struggle with.
did he just meet some girl on the internet that he fell in love
Yeah,
with?
I mean, it's like out of the blue. I don't know. I honestly cannot tell you. I mean, I was 14, my sister, she was 10. And up until then, he had been married to my stepmom, and that's who raised me, was my stepmom. And then when they got I'm going to come go around this way. When they got a divorce, he started talking to women on the internet. And then he met this woman, and at first he was going to move back to Michigan with her, but he ended up coming back. And I don't know, it was like slowly but surely, me and my sister were pushed out of the picture. He adopted her youngest daughter. It's like his wife was never happy if she wasn't making problems with, like if she was making problems with my sister, then she wasn't with me, or vice versa. And then, things just spiraled from there.
It sounds like
And
this really this concreted your like problem with men. So like when you were a kid, you know, you had the boyfriend that was abusive. Now you got your dad who just left you. And so this is like a pattern is starting. You know what I mean?
yeah, and my mom was never there when I was a child. My mom really wasn't there until my dad left. So when I was 14, I moved in with my mom, and that's when we started establishing our relationship. But when I tried to commit suicide at 16, they had set up for me to do counseling and all that stuff, but I was never taken to counseling. I think I was taken one time, and my counselor had to reschedule, and that was the end of it. So, at that time, people really didn't take mental health seriously.
Nope.
It was not something that you heard of all the time. It's not something you really, my dad, he's the type of person that if you have a problem, solve it. You know what I mean? Like, you can just solve these problems and everything's okay. Just like with addiction, he thinks, well, don't touch it no more. Lay it down, don't touch it no more, and there should be no other problem.
Right. If it was just that easy, none of us would have
I
a problem.
wish it was that easy. And like I told him, I said, lay your coffee down and don't touch it no more. Lay your cigarettes down and don't touch it no more. Lay your insulin down and don't touch it no more. And then tell me how easy it was to do, because it's the same aspect. But I married my high school sweetheart. We got married really young, and I think I've done that more to get away from my parents, kind of be out on my own, than I did for the right reasons. I loved him, don't get me wrong, but I don't know. I wanted out of my mom's house so bad because it was just unstable, and I already didn't really have a relationship with my dad. I seen him every now and then, but not like, I did. So, we got married, and before we got married, like, everything was great. We were best friends before we got together. We got together when I was 15, and then we got married. I was 17, and he was 18. But after we got married, it's like he flipped like a light switch. Like, I mean, it was crazy. Like, when we would fight, he would always, like, bite me or pinch me or throw stuff at me. He would never, like, hit me so he could say, I've never hit you. That narcissist thinking. And, now financially, things of that nature, great husband. He always worked, always took care of me and my daughter. And we were young, but, I don't know, it was a mess. And so that, going through our divorce, well, I had my first baby at 21, and that was our child together. She's 14 now, going on 20. But, the day that done it for me was when, she was playing in the floor. It was actually our 10-year anniversary of when we started dating, not when we got married. And there was a baby white box in the floor, and we were fighting, and he kicked it, and it came like a centimeter from hitting her in the head. And I was like, get the fuck out. Oh, sorry. I was like, get out.
You're okay.
To go. Like, when it comes to my kids, I was like, you gotta go. God, these people in these loud cars. And right now we're staying in a hotel. We just moved to Morristown, Tennessee, and we're staying in a hotel until we find a place, and that's where I'm working.
Okay.
So we're staying in the suite of a hotel, but it's still loud with the baby and stuff in that little room, so that's why I came outside. But back to my story.
Hey, listen to me, Danielle. You're doing great. You're doing great, and you don't have to worry. Like, I don't care if you were underneath a bridge telling us your story. Like, you're gonna help somebody by sharing your story. Okay?
Yeah. Okay. So going through that divorce, I really hit rock bottom because I went from being a coal miner's wife, and if you're from the South, you know that coal miners make what we call a lot of money. I had anything and everything I wanted with him. We had, several vehicles, motorcycles, a home. And so when I left, I had nothing. I had not a dime to my name. I wasn't, I guess, one of the smart women who thought, let me save up, some cash before I go. It was, when that happened and he almost hit my kid, I was just like, it's done. So I actually ended up moving into Section 8 housing. And that's when I started my addiction. And it started slowly. Like, I started doing pain pills, Lortabs, things of that nature. And I was partying, I just wanted to forget about everything stressful going on in life and just let loose. And another thing I think too was, I got married so young, and I was in a relationship from such a young age. I never got to sow my oats. You know what I mean? Like, I never got to have that teenage party phase in my life. I guess I realized that things were probably going south, and the first time I didn't have a pill, and I realized that I was getting sick from not having a pill. But I just waved it off, like, oh well, it'll be all right. I'm not going to get that bad on them. Because at the time, Lortabs, 3 days, you're good.
Yeah.
When you're not on them bad. And so that's when I got introduced to Oxy 80s. And I started out just doing a half. And the high from them was crazy amazing to me. It was. My thing was, I loved, right? You don't never see a green 80 no more. But, my thing was, I loved to nod. You hear people say, they liked being up and speedy and, things. I love to nod. Hence all the scars on my chest from cigarettes.
Yep.
And that's what 80's done for me. Once you got over the initial throwing up and scratching until you couldn't scratch no more, you nod all night long. And so my uncle was kingpin where I lived, so I never had to do without. If I needed to front, I fronted, So things went downhill pretty quick with me. Just because it was so accessible, I think. And I didn't have to worry about the whole not having money thing. And within, I would say, 6 months, I was doing up to 580s a day.
Damn.
And that, yeah. And that was to the point to where I wouldn't even nod. That was just maintaining. So, pretty soon, 80s weren't cutting it. And that's when I got introduced to the needle. And the first time that I done it, I remember, God, it's crazy the stuff you remember about addiction.
I know.
I can remember, it was one of my friends, and the only reason she introduced me to this way was because I had dope, and she's like, hey, do it my way, And so I was like, yeah, I'll try it, why not? Anything for a better high. And so I tried it, and I can remember falling back on the bed, and I was like, oh my God, this is freaking amazing. Think about how stupid that sounds now, but wow.
It feels stupid now, but I can totally relate. I felt the same way.
It's like, wow, this is like nothing I've ever felt before. And, once you get on IV drugs, it's like things just go into a whirlwind. Like, I can't, there's years of my life that I just don't have. I can remember snippets and pieces of big events that happened. But so much of my daughter's life. So at this time, my daughter was with her father's mother. And I mean, I was up front with him, about, I was like, I'm on drugs. I'm not living a life where I can be a mother right now, and I don't want her in it.
Yeah.
I mean, I still seen her, but not like a mother should.
Well, listen to me. Thank God you were able to do that and let her go with someone else instead of keeping her with you. Like, I had Nate with me for a year and I was doing all kinds of stupid shit. Like, I'm really lucky I had my mother and father-in-law to step in and watch Nate for me, or else I would have been toting him to the dope man's house, you know?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, like, gosh. I like, his mom and them, they hate me, but like me now, I couldn't ever repay them for what they done for my child. Like, I don't hate them, and I can understand why they still have a lot of hostility and anger toward me. Absolutely, I can understand. But, it's opposite for me toward them. Like, I'm thankful toward them. I'm thankful for how they, took care of my child when I wasn't there to do it. He was there, but he was working. Like, a coal miner's life, especially one that works third shift, is they go to work, they sleep. They go to work, they sleep. And, they never have family time. And so his mother was left to take care of her kid. And when I was around 25, I was in a relationship there for a good year with a guy who I feel like used me for dope, and I was stupid. I was like, I didn't care because at least I had him there when I had him there. But he was legally separated from his wife, and that song "Stay" by Sugarland, that describes our relationship to a T. Like, when his wife would call, he would run outside. She didn't want him, but she didn't want him to be with nobody else, and he was still in love with her. When she would call, he'd run outside and talk to her. I'm at home, and then he would go home for what time that she would come and see him, and then he's right back at my house. I probably spent $60,000 on that man in 1 year. But then I got with a guy that had just got out of prison. And I actually got off dope for a few months. He had just got out, and he was like, I'm not going to do that shit. If you're going to be with me, you're going to quit. And I quit. Cold turkey. Came off everything.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, like, I think about it now, and I'm like, how the hell did I do that? Because in, like, 3 or 4 days, I was good.
Yeah.
And, this is I'd have a whole pocket full of pills and would not do them if I didn't have a needle in my hand,
Right.
So we got a house together and stuff, and we were doing really good. He had a job. I was staying home. I was obviously getting my daughter more at this time. And one night he comes in, one of his friends that came down, and he has a needle and morphine in his hand.
Oh, God.
And he was like, I want to get high with you. I want to see how you are when you're high. And I guess, it was just as easy for me to go right back into it. Like, it was like I'd never stopped. It was like 0 to 60 immediately. And so, yeah. We ended up,
Danie,
I ended
hold
up
on
getting
just a
pregnant.
second. Hold on just a second. If you guys can't handle somebody sharing their true story, then you need to sign off of the whole internet. Because this is literally her truth. She went through this, okay? If you're triggered by somebody's story time, then you might as well go hide your head in a hole, okay, honey? Because you ain't going to be able to make it through real life. All right. So she's sharing with her how serious it got and how she slipped back into her addiction that quickly and how all it took was her one time of shooting up to be hooked. So if you can't handle that, go hide yourself in a little hole and we'll see y'all on the other side. Go ahead, girl.
All right. Yeah, I started to say something, and I was like, well, maybe I'll just ignore it. But, you know, I just feel like people like that who want to start stuff like that aren't even worth your time. But, I ended up getting pregnant, and at this time that I got pregnant, we went from, you know, once we got on drugs again and everything, went from having a home and everything, him having a job, to living in a camper. So here I was pregnant, no money coming in, living in a camper. The only money we got was money he won playing poker. Like, and he's on probation, well, parole, you know, and getting high every day. So it was just a matter of time. And, I mean, and this relationship was just as toxic as the others before it, you know. He had me 6 months pregnant out picking up his trash he was supposed to do for parole. I had a list of chores that I had to get done that day, or I call hell. And I done it without argument, you know. And then when I was around 8 months, he ended up going to jail. So I was lost. Like, when I first got pregnant, my dad and my daughter's dad were all like, get an abortion. We'll pay for it, get an abortion. How you gonna take care of this baby? You don't need another baby. And, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it crossed my mind, you know, what position am I in? I can't be a mom to the child I have right now. And, well, if you don't like it, you don't have to be here. And we can just block you and mute you. Just keep scrolling. Like,
don't worry. Honestly, what's going to happen is there's people that don't like me and they want to start stuff. So I'm sorry about that. Like, I've been trying to ignore it too. We're trying to share like the reality of addiction, you guys. And it's uncomfortable and it's scary and it's reality. So like I said, if you're new in recovery and you can't handle it, leave. If you're in long-term recovery and you can't handle it, leave. It doesn't take a lot to just scroll. Okay, we're not trying to hold your hand. We're not holding you hostage to make you listen to the story. Scroll. Sorry, I just don't want people doing that to you because you're literally sharing, and I know it's making you feel it's hard to share, and I can hear it in your voice when you're sharing. And so when people are coming in and trying to be ugly like that, it makes me mad. So just scroll on by, y'all. Nobody's holding you hostage. Go ahead.
So, I got a dog coming over here toward me. I was just looking at it. So, his cousin, and as awful as it sounds, his cousin, it was his first cousin, lived like right down the road from us. And he worked for a gas well. He made really, really good money. He was the boss at the gas well. And so I got with this guy just so I could make sure that I would have a home for my kids. I ended up caring for him in the long run, but, you know, that's why I ended up getting with him. Because I had no home. The camper I was staying in was, the guy was with grandmothers. So I ended up getting with him and moving in with him. And then he went to jail. So I actually went and stayed with this guy's mom and came. And I don't recommend this. Let me say this before I tell this part of my story. In no way do I ever recommend coming off any kind of drugs cold turkey while you are pregnant. It's dangerous to you. It's dangerous to your child. Never, ever, and you might be terrified that you're going to go to the doctor and they're going to take your baby. And I think what we have to realize is a lot of doctors are educated on this subject these days, and they would rather help a mother get the help that they need rather than take their child. So ask for help, because there is help out there. Don't ever go cold turkey. But that's what I done. I went cold turkey at 8 months pregnant.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it was a struggle. It was a real struggle. I went to his mom's because I knew that would be somewhere that I had like no access to no drugs. I had no way to get nowhere to get any drugs, and so my little boy was born April the 17th, 2010, and he was born, thank Jesus, perfectly healthy. But I want to stress again, that was just the luck of the draw. Because, doing drugs almost my whole pregnancy, going cold turkey, I could have really harmed my child. So that's when I started the methadone clinic. I thought, everybody was telling me how great methadone was, and I want to make this clear too. I'm not down on methadone. It's just a method that did not work for me.
Right.
Absolutely did not work for me. And my clinic really wasn't there to help people. They were there for the money. So I thought, this would be a place I can go get counseling, get the help I need for all my problems, and I'm going to go inside because I got to charge my phone, but I can, get help I need for all my problems. I can get on this and don't have to worry about withdrawing, and can come down as I need to. So I started going to a clinic, and I think between me and and the guy I was with, it was around $800 a month together.
Wow.
I didn't take insurance. You had to pay daily or weekly. And so I started going there, and I got liquid methadone. I didn't get the wafers or the pills. And I started immediately abusing it as soon as I started getting take homes. I was getting 80 milligrams a day. And, hang on. Sorry, I gotta get in my room, and I'll start my story again if that's okay.
You're
I'm in the hallway.
I really appreciate you. Like, for some reason, when I talk, it's like glitching, but I just want you to know, like, I really appreciate you sharing your story, and you're really...
Yeah, I'm sorry, it's not a better environment. I hate that it's like all over the place.
No, you're okay. And here's the thing, you guys. Like, everybody is different, and we all need to hear these stories, because now she's sober and now she's out of that life. And so that's the beauty of all this. That's where she was at, and she's come this far. And so don't get discouraged. You're doing a great job.
All right, so basically, like, anytime, so I would go to the clinic. I was getting weekly take homes. I would go to the clinic and I would dose. As soon as I left the clinic,
Hey, you got your phone over the mic, or you got your hand on the mic. There you go.
Better?
Yeah.
We got those big syringes. And because liquid methadone, if you don't know, it's like children's Tylenol. And I would shoot like 100 milligrams, and this is going after dosing 80 milligrams. I was doing around 300 milligrams of methadone a day, plus doing nerve pills and things like that on top of it, which is why I say I'm lucky to be alive. Because it's very, very, very dangerous to mix nerve pills and methadone. Most methadone clinics will not prescribe nerve pills when you're on methadone.
Right.
So, this went on for a while, years, and it was just life. I stayed messed up. I slept constantly while I nodded out. I didn't sleep. I nodded out. I don't know how I didn't lose my kids. I didn't live. And, I leave so many gaps in my story because I don't remember those times. I remember the big moments of my life, and that's it. And I said, it's so sad that I don't remember a lot of my kids' childhoods.
Yeah.
Like, it's so sad. I ended up actually, my daughter came up to me one day. This was 2013, end of 2013. And she was like, "Mommy, you always sleep, you never play with me." And it was just like, a light switch in my head. And I was like, what the hell am I doing? So I went straight into rehab that day. And while I was in rehab, my husband, we had got married. We got married in 2010 after my son was born. He was bringing Mountain Dew bottles into visitation, like, "I've got Xanaxes in this Mountain Dew, you want a drink?" And, just very, very disrespectful stuff for somebody who's trying to stay clean. So I didn't trust him with my son. And I got my father to come and get my son and take care of him. Because I had planned to go to a halfway house and do whatever I needed to do to stay straight. And so then I had ended up having to contact social services and try to find out what I needed to do to make sure my dad could take my son to the doctor and things of that nature. And that's when the woman at social services said, "Well, I feel like it's only right for me to let you know that your dad has inquired about getting full custody of your son." So he was trying to take my kid from me while I was in rehab trying to get help. So I took a furlough from rehab and went and got my son. And left him with my mother-in-law and went back into rehab the same day. And I was in rehab for 45 days. And when I got released, I went back to the same place that I had always lived, to a man who was still actively using. I think the only thing that saved me at that time was the fact that he was having to dose at the methadone clinic every day. He didn't get take-homes or anything like that. And then I found out he had been stealing his brother's Concerta, which, if you guys don't know, that's a form of like Ritalin, speed you up. And he had been up for days. And I noticed he was like acting weird. And this happened on March the 4th, 2014, and I do want to say trigger warning because this is not for the faint. It's a lot. The first thing I can remember about that night was he had me like up against the wall. My face was pointed toward the wall, and he was questioning me about something. He had got in his head that I was cheating on him with my ex, who I hadn't seen in years. And when I tried to turn around, my hand hit him. And so he said that, I'd smacked him in the face. And that's when I felt I seen his hand come around and he hit me right in the temple. And I mean, when they say, the saying, you see stars, you literally see stars. It's like sparkles when somebody knocks you out. I'm not going to tell everything that happened this night because it's way too graphic. But things escalated quickly that night. He was seeing things. He was hearing things. It was very bad. And I had found out later that he was on meth as well. So he was on a lot of stuff, and he hadn't had sleep. And once you go without sleep for a while, your brain does mess with you. You start hearing things, seeing things, believing things. And it's like once you get in that psychosis, you can't bring yourself out of it.
Yeah.
So that night, for 12 hours, I was held captive. I was beat, and I was raped several times in front of my 3-year-old son. It was bad. I can remember him, saying, and at the time, really, like I knew I'd been raped, but I was like, who would believe that a husband would rape his wife? Wow. So my son had, and everybody says, why didn't you run? Why didn't you fight back? And I mean, a lot of people don't realize that people on meth, there's no keeping them down. You can knock them out 50 times and they're right back up like they were never knocked out. And I had my child to think of, and the only thing that was on my mind was if his attention was on me, then it wasn't on him.
Yeah.
And so I can remember at one point in the night, I actually told him, I'm like, his mom lived like right down the hill from us. We lived back in the boondocks. We had no phone, nothing. I had no way of getting help. No cell phone, nothing. And I said, take my son to your mom's and let me know that he's safe and just kill me. I think by that time I had been knocked out over 15 times. I was stripped down in the middle of the floor and kicked with steel-toe boots. It was humiliating more than it was painful, I think. And what it done to my child was the most awful thing that came out of that night. My child no longer referred to him as Daddy. He referred to him as the bad man. And this was the only father he ever knew. And this took me years to be able to talk about. So, my little boy, he was actually doing like at-home school stuff. Thank God. To get him transitioned into school, because he had never spent like any time away from me. So he was very, very stuck to my hip. And so the next morning, his teacher showed up. And by that time, I don't know how, but my husband had fell asleep. His teacher showed up, and I had not looked in the mirror. I had not done nothing. When she seen me, I made up an excuse at first that I had got in a fight. And then finally I told her the truth. And obviously she's fearing for herself, me and my kid at that time, because he's in the house. He had busted all the windows out. This is late March. It's still cold where I lived. I lived in Virginia at the time. During this time, so it was pretty cold. So she told me that she could get me into a battered women's shelter. I ended up having to go to social services where my son was involved. And the day that he held me captive, I actually had court over a traffic fine. And so the cops come to social services to pick me up on a KPS. And he said, I just got to go take you to the magistrate's office. Due to the circumstances, I'm sure he'll let you sign out on an OR bond. So I left and went to the magistrate's office with him. And by the time I got back, social services had put my son into foster care. And they were like, if you hadn't got arrested, we wouldn't have had to put him into foster care. And I was like, I was gone 10 minutes. Not only did you put my child in foster care, you didn't tell me, and you didn't let me tell him bye. I was like, my child has never, not once in 3 years that he's been alive, spent a day away from me. And he's already been through enough. So yeah, I was pretty broken. And at this point, I really did not care if I lived or died. I was praying for death at this point. And I mean, what's sad now that I think about is like, I blamed myself for everything that had happened. I blamed myself. And so I ended up going to the battered women's shelter. And it's not like when I think of shelters, like I think of like big buildings with just cots laying everywhere, you know. Yeah. But this was like a house. Nobody knew where it was except for the women staying there. You had your own room and a nice bed and stuff. And I can remember crying myself to sleep all night. Because I'd never sleep without my baby, so. So I started what I needed to do to get him back. I started parenting classes, NA, counseling, going to my weekly visits to see him. You know, just whatever they told me to do, I was willing to do. And so while I was going to the NA meetings, I met my current husband there. I couldn't stand him. Honestly. When I first met him, I could not stand him. But, you know, he was so patient with me because I'm not going to lie, I was messed up. Like, when we were in the car together, I would ride huddled up next to the door, looking out the window and wouldn't move. When we would have an argument, I constantly went into a panic attack because I was terrified that he was going to hurt me. He could not put his hands nowhere near my shoulders or my neck because that would put me right into a panic attack. And I woke up every night without fail screaming because I would dream that my ex-husband was chasing me. At the time, he was still my husband, but and this went on for a year. Within that year, me and my husband now, we did end up moving in together. He was trying to help me get my son back. I had no car, I had no job, and when your kid goes to foster care, you have to have a stable environment to bring them home to. They have to have their own room. You have to have a way to get them to doctor's appointments and, do whatever is necessary that they'll need. And so it started getting bad with social services. I was still doing all of my treatments. I was still, passing all my drug tests. I ended up actually going and getting on Suboxone in 2015. March 2015. And because I found myself every day wanting to use. I just wanted to escape everything. And I think that's just because, as addicts, we use drugs to escape everything for so long. We don't know how to deal with real problems when we do have them. Yep. It was easy for us to deal with those problems because we just got high. So we don't have the tools to do that. And So I went and got on Suboxone to help me. And I mean, I'm still on Suboxone. I'm getting ready to start coming down off of Suboxone now. I mean, it's took me, gosh, 5 years to get mentally stable enough, to be able to. No way was I coming off of Suboxone until I knew for a fact I was mentally stable enough to do so. No way was I going back down that rabbit hole. But I had a lot of problems with social services and the foster parents. They just started nitpicking at every little thing. At this point, I was getting my son through the weekend. He was staying all night through the weekends. And I can remember one time we had a cookout that Sunday, and they had said I sent my son home dirty. And I'm like, we were at a cookout. He was playing, he's not going to stay spick and span outside playing. One time they had tried to say that I overdosed my kid on Tylenol, hadn't even gave him Tylenol. And I was like, I've been a mom at this point for 8 years. I think I know how to give Tylenol.
Yeah.
I was like, if y'all feel that I gave him something, take him to the hospital. Well, we did, but nothing showed up in the urine. Well, I mean, it was just something constantly. And I knew what it was. I knew it was because the foster parents wanted my son. March 2017, I showed up at court. Thought I was taking my son home this day. Now, mind you, I still have custody of my daughter. Me and my husband, now we ended up getting married November 2015. And then we got saved and baptized together the 22nd of November. But March 2017, I went to court, and they took me in a room, and it was foster care lawyer. I had a court-appointed lawyer, which was the stupidest mistake I've ever made. If I could go back, I would absolutely have had my own lawyer.
Yeah, me too.
The foster parents had went and paid for them one of those, highly expensive attorneys. And so basically their attorney sits me down and tells me that I can either do an open adoption with the foster parents, or his exact words, we can go in the courtroom. I'll have the state take custody from you of your son, which gives the state of Virginia every right to come after any other child you have now or will have in the future. So basically it told me if I didn't do an open adoption, I was going to lose every child I had. And I can remember the foster worker. She was like, I know how you feel. You're the victim in all of this. And I was like, one, why is it okay for me to have custody of one child and not the other? Why am I a good enough mom for one and not the other?
Right.
Two, don't tell me you know how I feel when no one has ever come in and jerked your child out of your arms. And three, how can you say I'm the victim in all of this, yet I'm the one being punished? Because my ex-husband got 3 whole months in jail for what he done to me. 3 months. So I done the open adoption, and a week later, I found out in the state of Virginia, there's no such thing as an open adoption. That foster parents can cut you off at any point they want to. So I have not seen my son since March the 17th, 2017.
They still have your son?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. I passed every drug test. I honestly can't answer that question. I don't know. I don't know what I done wrong. I really do not know. I passed every drug test they asked me to. I've done every class. I stayed in counseling. Gosh, I've been in counseling now since 2014 when this all happened. I've been in counseling. I had a home. He had a room. He was spending weekends with me. I don't know. But, so I would call and, well, they would be on Messenger and I'd ask him, how's he doing? I would, check in on him regularly. But as soon as I would ask to see him, to set up, to where I can come and spend time with them, they would stop responding to my messages. And this went on forever until it got to the point to where I just had enough. And I told them, I was like, listen, you call yourselves Christians. You say, you told me all this stuff, that you were going to let me see my son, and that I was going to be able to see him on birthdays and holidays, and that I was going to be a part of his life. I said, and you guys have failed to do none of that. I said, you made every promise in the world until you got what you wanted, and that all went out the window. I said, you will be judged one day for what you have done to me. And the only way I see my child now is to stalk him on Facebook. I stalk his foster mom's Facebook page to see pictures of him. And like some days, the only thing that keeps me going is the hope that one day he finds me. So needless to say, I had no faith in this system. Because if you've got money, you can get anything through court. But if you don't have money, you're screwed. Because that's all they care about is money. And you can't fight the system. I mean, I know that's awful to say. I see so many people going through it and trying to fight the system, and you've got so many recovering addicts, especially mothers, trying to fight to get their kids back, and there's always that stigma on your back, especially in the small towns that I'm from.
Yeah.
You are always the same person to those people.
Hey, Danie, you can
like me and my son actually fostered a teenager. Like, we weren't good enough to have my son, but yet I was good enough to have my daughter, and I was good enough to be a foster parent. Like, it's messed up. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it was. I tell everybody, the foster parents basically bought my child for $10,000.
Yeah.
And it's sad. It happens every day. The main goal in foster care is supposed to be reunification. That is the number one goal, is reunification. And it's not. It's not. But, so, in 2000 and later on that year, me and my husband, like I said, we actually ended up fostering a teenage girl. The girl we ended up fostering was actually his ex's daughter. He had brought her home from the hospital. He got with her when she was pregnant, and he raised her for 7 years. And he started seeing her and things like that, and we found out she had a very, very bad home life. Very bad. So we went to social services and we got sole custody of her. And she was very, very mentally messed up and had to actually end up going into, we had her for almost a year, and she had to end up going into a therapeutic foster home. And that is where both of the parents are actually, they have psychologies and psychologies. They have degrees in like psychology or counseling or things, something of that nature, to where, you know, there's always someone around if need be. And so I'm just glad that she got the chance that she deserved, because she was a great kid. Straight A student, you know, really good kid. She had just, you know, had a shit life.
How do you stay sober not having your son? Like, what makes you keep going?
Well, I have my other kids. In 2018, August 2018, I had a little boy. And I'm going to tell you, the guilt that I felt when I found out that I was having a little boy was ungodly. Like, being pregnant, because we didn't think we'd have a kid together. We were okay just having the kids that we had, because I've had a lot of like female problems and, you know, cervical cancer, things like that. But I did end up getting pregnant on Christmas 2017. And so I was on Subutex when I was pregnant with him, and I'm going to say again, don't ever do this. I was prescribed 2 Subutex a day, but I took only what I had to not be sick. Yeah. And my thinking was, well, if I'm not sick, the baby's not sick. So I took a quarter of a Subutex a day. I don't know how I done it. Do not know how I done it, but I did. And I came off all my mental health medication. Don't ever do that. But I was terrified that he was going to be born withdrawing. Like, that fear, that put the fear of God in me. And even though I was doing everything that the doctors told me to, even though everything I was doing was legal, it was still in my head that when my son was born, they were going to take him from me, because I'd already lost one child. And once you lose one child, that it like puts the fear of God in you. So I went into early labor with him. I went into labor 6 weeks early. And I had him, and he was 6 pounds and 5 ounces when I had him. So he would have been a big baby had I carried him full term. But he actually lost down to 5'11" because I was breastfeeding. And my milk hadn't came in. But he had no withdrawal symptoms, nothing. He was perfectly fine. And once his weight started getting up there, we got to go home. But the whole time we were in the hospital, like, I was pushing for them to let us out, because I thought, and actually social services did come into my room, but it's mandatory. Yeah. Anyone who is on that, social services, you know, comes and checks on you, see if you got everything you need or whatever. And I was quite grouchy to this woman I shouldn't have been. Like, she came in and she was like, you know, do you have everything you need? Do you have a crib? I was like, we don't need nothing from you. You can leave. And I feel bad for how I treated the woman. She was just doing her job. Yeah. But I was terrified. I would cry every single day that we had to stay, more than I thought we should. You know, I was like, we should have done been out of here. They're keeping us for some reason. In my mind, it was to take my kid. But I had the best doctor. My doctor actually specialized in women who are on mat and having babies, and so he was really great. And he, you know, always reassured me that, you know, don't worry, you're taking him home. It's okay. But I was still scared. Like, even when I went into labor, I was like, don't you put nothing in my IV that I don't know about. Like, you know, I wasn't trying to give them any reason, and I had a C-section, so, you know, it was painful. It was my second one. It was awful. But, you know, there's some days that I'll watch a movie about adoption or somebody losing their kid. Or, you know, just some days that it gets stuck in my head and I don't know how I'm going to make it to the next day. But when I get like that, you know, I take my kids in my arms and I just hold them. You know, and it's crazy what laughter can do for you. You know, playing with your kids and seeing them laugh and laughing with them. I mean, it makes things so much better in that moment. It makes life bearable in the times when it's not. And you know, every year I celebrate his birthday. And I count down the years. You know, I'm counting down to when maybe he'll get on social media or, you know, and I just hope he knows that I fought like hell for him. I mean, he was there and, you know, he would tell me, you know, I know you're my mommy. And the last time that I had him at my house, I remember he came running up to me really fast and he wrapped his arms around me and he said, "You are the best mommy in the whole wide world." So I hold those moments close. And you know, when I lost my son, I contacted my dad begging him to go get him from foster care. And he responded with a message telling me how piece of a shit of a mom I was. And he was no help in the situation. And he continues to tell people what a piece of shit I am. But, you know, I try to keep all the toxic people out of my life now. Anyone who sees fit to put me down, anyone who wants to still act like I'm the person, and I know I was a shit person when I used drugs. I didn't care. I didn't care who I hurt, who I stole from. I didn't care. But I don't think people realize is that drug addicts, yeah, when we are using, we are shit people. But when we're not, we're some of the most kind-hearted people. We will give you the shirt off our back. I mean, I've met some people who have been clean for so long, and you know, they talk about how awful they were when they were using, but you just can't see that if you know the person they are now because they're such amazing people. So, you know, I actually ran an NA meeting for a while during COVID for people who couldn't get to a meeting and things like that. And we were living in Western Kentucky, and we were doing great. We moved there right before I had my son. We were doing really good, and then my daughter, I don't think I've told you guys, but you know, I have bipolar 1 disorder, PTSD, of course, as most of us do, depression, anxiety, and so we just found out my daughter has bipolar, which is hereditary. And, you know, she was having a lot of problems, so I had to move back to Eastern Kentucky to be with her. But there's just nothing there. There's no jobs. There's nothing. Like, we didn't even have a gas station, you know, in our town. No gas station, no fire department, no police department. Yes. We have nothing like that.
in Kentucky, and I've also heard that it's like poverty, really poor. People are just real poor.
No jobs, no jobs. The only people that really have anything are people who are on disability, who are retired, and to be able to get to work, you're going to have to drive quite a ways. You've got coal miners and people who work on a strip job, and that's really the only jobs you have. And my husband's disabled, so I couldn't really see myself being a coal miner. I'm not saying women can't do it, because I know women who do, but I couldn't, because I'm terrified of being under there before. It's not fun. Yeah. My papa who's my dad. My papa is my father. He's always, I don't care how bad I was, if I needed a home, I had one with him. He's just an amazing man. I don't know any stronger man. I don't know any kinder man. He's one of a kind in my eyes. But he is fighting stage 4 lung cancer. And it has moved to his aortic artery, so he doesn't have long left. So we decided to move next, up here where he is, which is still not far from my daughter. I can go pick her up, anytime I need to. She's just like an hour and 45 minutes away. But it's summertime, she's with her friends, so she's not trying to be a mom right now.
Yeah.
Right now I'm just, oh God, I work constantly, and that's one thing I have to say, when you are in recovery, if you can't work, find a hobby. Keep yourself occupied.
Yeah.
Do not let yourself any free time. You don't want to have free time. Have plans for something all through the day. If you don't have nothing to do, take your kids to the park. Do something, because, when we got that free time on our hands is when we get in trouble. So,
exactly.
Or go to a meeting. I would think I could write the NA book backwards. I swear. It's like.
I'm proud of you, girl.
Oh my gosh. I went to NA for years, even ran my own NA group. And most NA groups frown on Suboxone. They don't like you talking about being clean on Suboxone. They don't like you talking about being on recovery on Suboxone, because they don't think you are.
Right.
To them, you're still on a mind-altering substance, so you're not clean. But, Suboxone's never altered my mind, so.
Listen to me. From what you were doing, the way you were doing, injecting methadone, that's what I try to explain to people. I tell them, you have no idea. Methadone is small time. Suboxone is small time compared to what I was doing. Like, it doesn't even affect me. I can walk backwards. I could talk backwards. I could drive a car. I don't even feel it. But people don't understand that. A lot of people have taken it before, and they were opiate naive, and they took it and they're like, whoa, you know what I mean? But that's not how it affects us. We're just regular.
Yeah. I know, like, when I had my little boy, I was hurting so bad. And the doctor had actually prescribed me Percocets, which I didn't take my Suboxone while I was in the doctor's office, the hospital. But he prescribed me Percocets, and I was surprised, actually, that it made me sick, because I figured the blocker would still be in my system because I've been on it so long. And I think I took 2 of them the whole time I was in there. And he basically told me, to be able to manage your pain, I would have to overdose you because your tolerance is so high. That's like, a lot of people, like, a Percocet to me is like a Tylenol.
Right.
Same. It's so, when I started doing Suboxone, I never got high off of it. I hear people, so many people say, oh gosh, I've done one there one time and it made me puke and I got so high, and I'm like, you probably weren't on dope.
Yeah.
You probably weren't, a steady user, because had you been, if you're on methadone and transition to Suboxone, you've got to be very, very careful. It's really, really dangerous. So always do that under medical care. But luckily, I had been off Suboxone for a while. Methadone for a while when I got on Suboxone. And I always tell people, if you do decide to, do methadone, make sure you go to a clinic who has their priorities in order. Yeah. Because my clinic, we had to do, so many meetings a week or whatever, and basically we would go into a meeting, sign a paper, and walk out. We didn't even have a meeting.
Right.
We were supposed to see our counselor so many times a week, and we would walk in her office and sign a paper and walk out. All they cared about was getting that money from you every single day. That's all they cared about. Had it been people who really cared and actually ran the program right, it may have worked. I don't think they should give people liquid methadone, especially people who are IV users. I think they need to change the program up a little. But, for some people, I've seen it work. Yeah, I've seen people come all down off of methadone, and they're doing great. But for people like me, especially people who like downers, it's hard. It's really hard, because it's like the best downer in the world. And, I tried heroin one time on my 24th birthday. And the only way I can describe the feeling is euphoric. Like you are on cloud nine. And that's what I called methadone a long time, was legal heroin. Yeah. Because it gave me the same exact feeling. Of course, I was doing 400 milligrams a day, 400 milligrams a day. But, it gave me the same exact feeling. And I loved it. And, it terrifies me now. Like, it literally terrifies me now. And, for a long time, I could not. Yeah.
I'm fixing to wrap it up because I have to go to the bathroom, but I need you to do this for me. If we've been on here an hour and 15 minutes. If you could tell somebody that's struggling with addiction one thing, what would you say to them?
Oh, Lord, that's hard. That's really hard. I would say believe in yourself. Absolutely 100% believe in yourself. Because if you truly, truly know that you can do it. You absolutely have everything you need. All of the power is inside of you, and you can 100% do it.
Amen.
You just got, yeah.
You guys, please go follow Danie. And like I was saying before, on these videos, we're going to share the truth. So if it makes you uncomfortable, this might not be the place for you. I love you guys. I have to go to the bathroom so bad, or else I'd stay on here talking with you, okay?
Me too. I do too.
Okay, girl. I love you.
Okay, love you too, dog. Bye.
I have to go potty, y'all. So bad. So I'm going to upload this onto YouTube, and then I'll come back. Give me about 5 minutes, and I'll come back and we'll talk, okay?